start off right away, and this is the way it's going to go. I would ask Owame first, and then would ask Messi next. So we're starting off with the technology side of the questions because, as you know, technology is everything now. Life has changed. I used to say before they say seeing is believing, but now seeing leads to a lot of questions. So first questions for you, Owame. What strategies do you use to monitor and guide your teens' usage of technology and social media without invading their privacy?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. And good evening once again. Good evening, Messi.
Good
Um,
evening, Wambe. I hope I
I,
got the name correctly.
I think so. Oame, yes, you did. You
Owame,
did
Owame. All right, Owame.
great. So for us, and when I say us, typically this journey has not just been by myself. I've had my wife by my side. She's been a strong support. And I think the engine room for this adventure that we've gone into with the children and parenting. So for us, we haven't really tried to do anything techy to monitor what they do. I think we've tried to build it on trust. We've tried to engage as much as possible, and the truth is, it hasn't been like I would say to people, the template that we had, based on watching our parents manage teenagers, is not. Um, I don't think it works for the teens for today, right? And when you look at us from the angle of, I mean, if I were to look at the two generations my generation and my children's generation, I think my children fall within the Gen Alpha, right? The smartphone users, tech savvy. I am probably a Gen X, very analog, and very different. So communicating with them and understanding their dependence on social media or smartphones has really been a battle for me. But we found ways to, always, try to look at it from their own perspective. Why are they so dependent on these machines, right? It's just the time they were born into. You can't shake them off it, but you have to find ways to communicate. So it's more about engagement. We've tried to stay very close to them, try to read up, right? So we do a lot of studying around why are they so different from us? How can you engage them better? And that has helped break the ice a little bit. It's still a journey, it's still a process, but I think the fact that you're able to communicate um, with them and put yourself in their shoes to understand why they do the things that they do, it helps you be a bit more accommodating, right? And once you have that, it's the first step. I think then the next step now comes with you know putting the rails in place, right? So while they are from a different mindset and thought, a school of thought, you also need to try and bring them to what reality is. And one of the things I said was, from an African or Nigerian perspective, you need to be able to set the rules, right? And they need to be clear about what these rules are, because if you're trying to be their friend at this stage, you're missing the point. You're not built to be their friends now, right? You're a parent now. As they grow out of that phase, and they've learned their lessons and they've built through, experiences, they come back to themselves. Because luckily for me, I have two teenagers who are, growing towards the end phase, and one who's just coming in. So it helps to see that, evolution. But trying to be their friend now, right? It's not the process. You must set down the rules. You must say this is what we need to do. There will be battles. There will be conversations that are tough and difficult. But you need to be a parent and not a friend. And there's a strong distinction between the two. So we've
So in
tried to
setting
use
the
that
rules,
to, build a trust.
Yeah, in
Yep.
setting those rules, because I like what you said. You said there has to be rules. So I'm going to pass it on to Messi right now. So how do you distinguish between normal teenager screen use and digital addiction in today's context? The TikToks, the Instagram, Snapchat, how is it affecting the kids, and how would you distinguish as a coach?
Okay, thank you very much for the question.
There's a,
I know that, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so speaking about the normal use of screen time and the when it becomes an addiction, I would start by saying that the device, the screen that our children are exposed to has its purpose, okay? And understanding the purpose for those devices is very important because when purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. So when they are using it within the context of the purpose of screen and those devices, then it is a normal use. And a normal use can be indicated as when they are using it for academic purposes. It can also be used for socializing. It can also be used for entertainment. It can be used for skill acquisition and skill building. Okay. Now it becomes abnormal and begins to tilt towards addiction when it becomes and don't forget, before I move into that, it's important to also state that it is a normal use when it is not controlling the child, because the child is supposed to be in control of whatever they are doing, whether they are using screen or the device. They are supposed to be in control. The device or the screen is not supposed to control them. So it becomes abnormal when they begin to use it in such a way that they are enslaved to those devices. They are enslaved to screen time. And they begin to, tell lies about their online use of screen time. They begin to move away from the limits that has been set, especially in the family. They begin to break the rules that governs the use of screen. So you hear them, you will see them beginning to hide, to go to violate those rules, to begin to use it when they are not supposed to use it, to lie about the usage, and also it begins to affect their social life. They begin to replace screen with social life. You see them beginning to experience poor academic performances. It begins to affect their relationship with friends. Their social connection becomes affected. Their interest in the activities they used to really like begins to drop. Even their relationship with their family members, family activities begins to, dwindle, and they become disconnected to all this positive connection that used to be very important to them. When this happens, it's a telltale sign that they are becoming addicted to screen. And another thing too is that you see them, when you want to insist that they adhere to the rules that you have set. For example, if you have told them that we are supposed to be using screen in an open space, let's say everybody should use their screen in the sitting room. And once it is 9 p.m., every screen use should stop, or every device should be submitted. You will see them not obeying that rule. And when you want to stop, they will throw tantrums. They will become they will begin to act like lions that like wild like animals. They begin to become dramatic
Okay, so
and
let
do
me
all
let me
manner of.
interject. Sorry for interjecting, because now you've described the
Okay.
addiction. How do you now
Mm,
curb it? You are seeing your child react, lying,
mm,
not going by the house rules. What do you as a parent
exactly.
now do then?
What you do then is to go back to the drawing board, because there should be some rules that govern screen time in the home. Begin to ask yourself, if you didn't have one, it may be an opportunity for you to create one. If you have one, then you need to evaluate if you are actually following the rules yourself. Because it's not enough for you to put rules in place. You also need to ensure that you enforce the rules. So you need to find out if you're actually enforcing the rules. If you're not enforcing the rule, then you need to start enforcing the rules. Because protesting rules and limits is a normal part of what the teenager would do. You are the one to stick by your rule, insist on your rule, and ensure that they do what needs to be done. So that is part of what you begin to do. So you enforce the rule, ensure that there are consequences. Because if they keep doing what you don't want them to do without any consequences, you are indirectly enabling them. And that behavior is not going to stop. So you have to insist on the rules, enforce consequences, and do not pay attention to their protest.
Thank you very much. That's a wonderful answer. So for those that just recently joined the webinar, thank you because you're all muted. So that's a great way to start. This is a Q&A. So as she goes through the different subheadings with the topics, if you have a question, just put it in the chat. We'll come back to it and then we'll take it from there. So I'm switching gears now to mental health and the new normal. So as always, I would start with Owame and then move on to you, Mercy. So for you, Owame, how do you recognize and support your teens' emotional needs? The stresses they go through, the anxiety from being in high school or secondary school, as we call it in Nigeria, and then being approached by the opposite sex relationship now, and then even having pressure in their own gender, peer pressure, girls, clique, and all that. So, how do you recognize that my child is struggling emotionally, mentally, and how do you um, help your child in that regard as a parent?
Thank you. Thank you very much. So typically no silver bullet for these things. Again, there has to be that trust, right, between you and them. You need to. It's such a demanding exercise today being a parent, right? You have to monitor, you need to watch, you need to see the signs. You probably need to even relieve your time as a teenager and see how you can match that with behaviors, that come up today. Messi said something about how they respond to you taking the devices or trying to enforce, you know, uh, less screen time, and she's spot on when she says their tantrums are thrown. So sometimes you see these children who were little cute babies, some time ago, and then they just grow up into totally different people, when they become teens. So monitoring, research, talking with them, trying to talk with them, trying to make sure that they are your friends, because reality is they become new people, and with the social media influence, they become there's so much that changes the way they behave. So you need to be on your guard very early, from preteens to teens. You need to follow the yellow brick road and be sure that you pick up everything. Relationship wise, they're not going to tell you about their relationship if they can't talk to you. In fact, most times what you find is that they talk with the mom more, where these things come up, and then she now tells you, and then you find a way to bring yourself into the conversation so that you build that trust. Because I think that initially it may seem like they're not listening to you. It may seem like they don't want to talk to you. But with time, right, you find out that, you've created a crack within that wall. And the more you keep gnawing at it, it opens up, and you can discuss. Once you keep the communication going, and of course, from a faith-based angle, pray for them, right? Praying for these children, because there's so much that they are influenced by these days. And you just keep that going, physically engaging, spiritually engaging, and you find out that you get to that point where they're able to trust you and talk to you about the different things.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I would pass it on to Messi. What are the most common stressors that you are seeing in teenagers right now as a coach? And what are their parents telling you that are the very common ones?
Okay, as a coach, some of the stressors that I see anxiety, isolation, withdrawals, and what causes some of these stressors stems from many times family, the very home where they live. Some of these stressors come from dysfunctional homes when parents are not in harmony, they are not in unity. These are major causes of these stressors. Teenagers also experience a lot of pressure from in trying to, identify their career path.
Mm-hmm.
It puts a lot of pressure on them. And when it also comes back to family again, when parents are consistently angry and dissatisfied or disappointed with them, it also puts a lot of pressure on them because it puts a pressure for them to perform because it makes them feel inadequate. It makes them feel as if they are not doing enough. So they want to perform. Also, the financial situation in the family also is another source of stressor for them. And then some of their exposure on social media stresses them a lot. They experience these different levels of humiliation that comes like comparison as they watch their friends, see what is happening on the social media. They tend to compare themselves with what is happening in those spaces, and it tends to affect their self-esteem and self-confidence and the way they generally perceive themselves and their self-worth in general. So there are so many things that contribute to their stressor. It can be a very terrible comment from their parents, from their friends, from social media. Maybe they just put something out there and nobody's responding. It's a stressor for them. It's a major source of pressure for them. So, but many times we don't even get to see this stress on them until it spills over. It's like they have that bucket that contains all their stress, and we don't get to see it until it's spilling over, and then we are now seeing them beginning to act a certain way. And it tells you that something is dealing with them and you need to pay attention. So, those are some of the stressors that I can quickly point to.
Okay, I would ask the second one. And then again, just to remind us that on the chat section, you can put your comments, you can put your questions, so that not towards the end of the webinar, we have tons of questions and no time. And so the next question is, how do you balance? Because I listened to the first thing you say, so how do you balance pushing them to be resilient with validating their feelings and the fear that I'm being too harsh? Because when you were talking about the stressors, you said family finances or even comments they've made on social media can be a stressor. So as a parent, I use myself as an African parent because I grew up under very stern parenting. I'm almost tempted to always want to do that. But I have to like reel myself back and remind myself that, okay, this thing, you didn't like it when it was done to you. So I don't think your child. So where you draw that fine line of being, okay, let me not be my child's friend, like Owame said, but at the same time, let me meet my child at some middle ground.
So the question is trying to build resilience and
That
also
balance
validating.
between being too stern
Okay,
but being relatable.
Okay, so the balance is that every single skill that we want to teach or instill in our children, because the truth is they are not born with any of the skills. Children are not born with any skills. They
Yeah.
come as clean slates. So the skill that you are trying to imbibe is from the external, from the parents. And these skills can only be passed to them through the vehicle of grace, love, and empathy. So we can never say that we are validating too much. Let me put it that way. We can never be too empathetic. Because many times the mistake we make is that we want to ensure that we want to instill these competencies or skill in them. And sometimes we don't know how to draw the balance, which is what you are asking me.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that, yes, what I'm trying to say is that there is a place for you to validate their feelings. That is almost like a constant. Because validating their feelings is you identifying with their humanity, is you identifying with who they are. You cannot truly parent and instill skills in your child if you take the human face from your parenting.
Okay.
You don't get a child to do what you want by making them look bad or shaming them or guilt tripping them. You have to constantly use that tool called empathy. Now, when it comes to building resilience in them, it is an important skill that we must build in our teenagers. And this is the way I want to say this to us. We need to help teenagers to understand that there is something that is called life realities. There are realities of life. Life operates by principles. And if they are going to succeed in life, they need to learn to adapt to these principles and life realities and not expect the life realities to adapt to them. So, teenagers need to understand that there are certain part of these principles that governs life are out of their control. They can't control these principles. And because they cannot control these principles, they need to adapt to this principle. Some of the things they cannot control that governs life is that they cannot control failure. Failure is inevitable. Mistakes are inevitable. They cannot control consequences. They have to be made to understand that for every choice that they make, there are consequences for those actions. And another thing they need, another principle that governs life that they need to know is that they cannot just do anything they want and get the kind of results they want. If they want to get a good outcome, they have to think through what they want to do. So they have to do what is right and what is good to be able to get their desired outcome. So when we are able to help them to understand these principles that govern life, we begin to help them to adapt to this principle, to adjust to this principle, and not to demand that these principles and realities of life adapts to them. Mm-hmm. So that is how we are going to, be able to balance validating and ensuring that we build resilience in them. So while they are dealing with failure, for instance, they are dealing with their mistakes, we are going to be there to encourage them, to let them know that, yes, it's okay to feel the way you are feeling. You are feeling totally shamed. You are feeling that you shouldn't be here. You are feeling like you are inadequate. Your feelings are validated. But we also want you to know that you can do this. We are here for you. We are going to be here to support you. Don't let them think that their mistakes or their failure defines them, because that is what naturally they would do. So that is just one example. So when it comes to doing bearing the consequences of their action, we also need to let them know that when you act a certain way, the consequences will come. We are not going to rescue you from the consequences. You have to be there to bear the consequences. So those are some of the things that we can do to help our children to, imbibe the skill of resilience, while at the same time validating their feeling. You cannot just leave them in the cold and just ask them to take care of themselves because you think that by so doing, they will learn those skills by fire, by force. No, you need to constantly be there, validate their feelings, empathize with them, while you are also insisting that they adapt and adjust to the realities and the principles that govern life.
Thank you so much. So this leads me to the next session, which is communication, because whilst you were giving the answer, and even when OMS spoke, they talked about you have to communicate, you have to watch, you have to be able to see them, you have to be able to understand that they are watching you beyond what you say. So if we shift grounds now to communication, to you, Owame, how do you keep the lines of communication open? Because I know you said that we grew up in a different generation where the style of communication was different. your parents will tell you, do this. And if you ask why, they will say, because I said so. But if you do that with this current teen, they would tell you 1,000,001 reasons why that is inappropriate, why you are challenging their mental health, and they are more vocal and I would say a bit bolder than we were. So how do you keep lines of communication open as a parent?
Thank you, Isabel, for the question, and thank you, Messi, as well. I think a lot of the points that you made also, feed into this. I must confess that I have not always been, I've not always acted with the front foot with the children, right? So sometimes you need to balance it up with a very demanding work schedule. I've worked in the financial services industry for over 21 years now, and Iso would know, living in Lagos and working on the island, you leave very early in the morning and you come back late in the evening. And before you can even talk to the children, they're fast asleep. So I think that I've struggled at some point, but back to the point that I made around being deliberate, you need to find ways to always make sure that you're talking with them. I was having a conversation with my youngest daughter a couple of days back. We sat and we talked, and I could tell she was talking about she's an SS1, and she was telling me she didn't like some of the ways that girls are different, the girls. And I said, look, it's that phase, that early phase of teenage life where they are changing and they're trying to understand themselves, they're trying to understand their mindset, their bodies. And I told her a few stories about some of the experiences I had in secondary school, and for the first time in a long while, I had her undivided attention. She was really listening to me, because it seemed like who was this man that was wearing my father's face and talking with me, because the lessons I had brought out were so real to her. And I'd say that is one of the key things that we must always do. Tell them stories, let them understand that there are consequences for bad behavior, of being entitled, having that entitlement mentality. You must make
We're
them
having a bit of challenge with your network, OMS, so we're not hearing you very well. Can you hear us?
Life is not always a bed of roses, but you must be resilient enough to take it one step at a time, even if you you felt embarrassed. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I think it's a bit better now. Go
Hello,
on.
can you hear me?
Yes, go on, sir.
Better now. Right. So what I was saying was that communicating with them, telling them stories, letting them know that you're also a human like them, and that it's okay to make mistakes, but learn from them and then follow the right principles about life. I think having that at the back of your mind as you engage them constantly, it builds them in the right direction.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And then just for those that are joining us recently, I feel a need to do some brief introduction again. We have here Mercy Ajadi. She's a family and youth coach. She's certified and trained. And then we also have Oame, that in a sense is representing the parents. He's a trained financial advisor, but he has teenagers and he's been married for over 2 decades. So he's coming with a wealth of knowledge, bringing the parents' perspective, while Mercy addresses it as a youth and family coach. So I'm going to go to you now, Mercy. And so Owame talked about, asking them, even though however busy you are, finding time to ask them and engage them in conversation. But when can you tell, and this is the question, when they are acting out or disrespectful, what is the immediate response to de-escalate that situation rather than fueling the
Okay.
fire in terms of communication now?
All right, I get the question. Thank you for the question. It's a very beautiful one, because we are going to experience some sort of disrespect rather, from teenagers. But I would address these are what I do. The first thing I can do is to walk away. Walk away so that I can get myself together, because I know I am big on respect. I can't stand disrespect. It puts me off totally. Now, you can move me from 100 to 0 by just a singular act of disrespect. So I will move away from that point to calm myself down. And then when I am done, because my children already know me, what will happen is, if I move away and maybe go to my room or go do something else, is that they may come looking for me to apologize, because they know they have, gotten me upset. And then even if they don't come, when I'm calm, I will call them, and then we will have that conversation.
Okay.
And because one of the things we need to know is that no matter how upset you are in such situation, you are still the adults in the equation. So you need to act like one, because your child is still looking and watching you, learning from you how you are going to handle that particular situation. So you need to model the right behavior for them by exercising emotional regulation and control. It doesn't come easy, but it's a skill we can all learn. So another thing too in handling situations like that is to understand that correction and discipline is not an emergency. So you don't need to want to correct that particular behavior on the spot. You are going to only escalate the situation. So that is my first option. When it is time, I'll call them in. I'll call the person in, and then we'll have a conversation. I will let the child know how I felt about what they did. I will also let the child know that I can't accept that, because it's not our family culture, not our family value. I would also let them know that this is exactly how it made me feel. I will find out from them, if that is done to them, how will they feel? So it helps them to have a holistic perspective to what happened. And so that when they are apologizing, taking the correction, they are apologizing from the place of clarity and understanding, not just throwing one apology because it is required or expected of them. If apology doesn't come, then there will be consequences. I will let them know that I am fine with you expressing how you feel, but I will not tolerate or accept disrespect. I won't take it. I won't have you abuse me. I won't have you disrespect me, because it is not the right thing to do. When you disrespect me, it means you have no respect for yourself. And I'm not raising you not to have respect for yourself. So your respect of me is a reflection of the respect you have for yourself and the respect you are going to have for other people. Because I'm not the only human you are going to be relating with.
Yeah.
And if you continue in this manner, you are going to have people, your relationship will be affected. People will move away from you, because many people don't want to stay with people who are disrespectful. So it will be a powerful teaching time for us. So that's the first way I would deal with it. The second way I would deal with it may be for me to stand on the spot, take a deep breath, calm myself down, and speak to them sternly. I do not like the way you just spoke to me. When you are calm and ready to speak, respectfully, politely, expressing your emotions in the right way, then you can come so we can have a conversation, and then I'll walk away. That will be it. So those are the two
Fantastic.
ways I will handle.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for that. I was going to say something, and I thought to myself that maybe I'll keep it until when we get this the questions rolling in. I see on the chat that someone wrote, at what point do parents become friends to their kids? Because one of our faculty said, we shouldn't be friends with kids. So at what point in this journey with our teenagers do we become friends, or we never get to that point?
Is it for me?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I am of the school of thought that we should build friendship with our children as a tool for parenting. A tool for parenting. Because if you are going to parent effectively, you need to operate at their level. That is what friendship does. It doesn't mean they are your friend, like you are not putting the burden of friendship on them, because it's a huge burden. The child already have the burden of growing up. So you cannot add the burden of friendship as you will relate with your friends. I hope you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So you are going to build friendship as a parenting tool, because you need that tool to parent them. You can't parent a child you are not. It takes somebody to be your friend for you to have some kind of conversation with. And you have to build that with your child. Friendship means you identify with their world. You understand them. You are getting in there to know who your child is. So, in answering that question, I would say that is you will build friendship from the moment of birth. You start bonding with your child. Now, different scenario as they grow, experiencing different developmental stages, different things are going to start happening. When the child from toddler to preteens, they are going to naturally be your friend without you doing anything. You are not going to be intentional about it. You don't need to. Your child will naturally run to you to tell you everything. They believe you are the best that has happened to them, and you are. But slowly but gradually, immediately they get into teenagehood, they begin to detach, because the developmental stage requires certain things for them to be able to start operating separate from you. So you are no longer going to see that child who always runs to mommy to tell mommy everything. You are now going to make intentional effort to go to them. Otherwise, you will lose them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are trying to build their own identity separate from you. They are trying to build connection separate from family. That is why you begin to see them connecting more with their peers, with their mentors, with their celebrities, role models, whoever it is that is the external voice speaking to them out there. They will start connecting to them more than they are connecting with you. And you shouldn't take it personally, because it's the normal process of growth. But you just need to manage it effectively so that whoever it is that they are detaching to build connection with, you are going to monitor and guide them so that they are consistently building positive connections, not the ones that will harm them. I
So,
hope I
question
answered
for
that
you.
question.
Yes, so I like being practical. So let's say my daughter now is into Taylor Swift and she's a Swiftie, or she's into any of these other things that Minecraft for the boys. Are you saying I now have to become a Taylor Swift fan so as I can meet her at that world? Or do I now have to learn Minecraft or get into sports? How do I meet them in so that our language is the same and then they can relate with me in that regard?
All right. What I mean is not that you are going to learn your child's sport or do whatever it is their interest is. It's good if you can do that. Some people can do that. Do you understand? But basically, what I'm trying to say is that it's an emotional connection. You need to find out what is peculiar to this age bracket so that I can identify with the peculiarities and the challenges of this age bracket, not necessarily what their craft is. If you add that to it, it's a good thing. But you need to understand what is happening in their world. Identify with their truth.
Right.
What are they going through? What is happening on the inside of them? Because if you don't know that, then they are going to be strangers to you. And you cannot connect with strangers like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you understand? So, for example, now, you know that your child is getting into puberty. For example, the girl child. That is when you have, because you already have that understanding and knowledge, you start warming up to them, to start having those conversations with them. Start asking curious questions, to find out where they are at that level. What do they know about it? And you start teaching them so that when that time comes, they will come to you with those challenges because they know that mommy has been coming to check in.
Mm.
Mommy cares about me. Mommy have an understanding that this thing would happen. So now that is about to happen, mommy is the best person to go and talk to because she has already identified with me. She knows this thing.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I mean. So for the boy child too, you start having conversations about what is happening in the with puberty with them. You are not a stranger to those knowledge. So once your child knows that mommy is equipped with this knowledge, he already knows what is happening in our world. Then she cannot but
Naturally,
be the
they will
best
come.
person to talk to.
Yeah.
Exactly, naturally they would come.
Naturally, they would come. Thank you for that. Thank you. I know someone put a question in the chat. It ties into our next topic. I know we said 45 minutes, but from what I'm seeing, we probably would overshoot that time. So keep the comments coming. I'm shifting gears now to risk, safety, and substance abuse. Just to mirror the question that one of our viewers have here. Just give me a sec if I can pull up to it so I can read it properly. And she says, how do you handle teenagers stroke children who are into substance abuse and also are seriously under peer pressure to do various vices? That will be for you, Mercy.
Okay, so I should go ahead and answer that now.
Yes, please.
Okay, so how do you handle teenagers who are into vices, who are using substances, and all of that? Now that you know, you are aware of what is happening in your child's life. This is not the time to shame this child. This is not the time to make them feel bad because we don't even know what happened for them to get into these vices in the first place. So this is the time for you to draw them in and move closer to them to find out what is going on. Be curious, not accusatory. Be driven by curiosity, not to be accusatory and condemning. This is not the time for you to sit on the judgment throne and begin to pass judgment on this child. Because like I said, it is a huge responsibility already for the teenager to want to learn how to be an adult. It is a huge responsibility. And sometimes we don't know how big that responsibility is. So if the child is already into vices, we need to draw close to them, draw them close to us, and begin to start having the hard conversations that we may be shying away from, or maybe we have had, but this is still the way it turned out. So we begin to, find out what happened, how did they get here, what can we do to help, begin to research. If you need to get them professional help, then you have to get them professional help because it's not everything that you can do by yourself. So when you get to that point where you have exhausted your knowledge, another person's knowledge begins. So you may need to seek help if you know that you cannot help them to manage those vices. But one of the underlying key thing that you will need in dealing with them at this point is to empathize with them and then try to let them see the harmful effect of these vices on them. Role play it for them. Bring videos that you can watch with them. Use practical real life situation and examples to paint the picture clearly and vividly to them so that they can know the dangers that is lying ahead of what they are getting in themselves into. Because many times teenagers get into vices not because they want to, but because they don't know how to say no. But they don't know how to say no, they are adventurous and they can take risks, so they want to try. They are still trying to explore their identity and find who they are. They are having identity crisis. So they are trying so many things, putting their hands in the good, the bad, the ugly, until they eventually find who they are. Sometimes they get really burnt in the process. And that is why we have to be there every single time to guide them. So when you understand where they are coming from, are you going to be accusing that child? Are you going to be dealing with that child in condemnation? No, you are going to be empathizing because you are seeing a child who is confused. This is not what they want. If you sit with a child that is engrossed in vices, I can assure you it's not the life. See a teenager who will tell you that I want to be a drug addict. If you ask, you cannot ask an average teenager, who do you want to become? And they will tell you, I want to be a prostitute, or I want to be a drug addict, or I want to be smoking Igbo and become mad and be walking naked on the street. There is no teenager that does not have, many of them have a vivid description of their preferred future. But at the end of the day, do they end up that way? No. Why? So many reasons, so many factors. And when you have an understanding of this, you will not stand in the middle as a midwife, helping them to birth a vision that they may not even be able to cast in the first place, not to talk of implementing. But if they want a beautiful outcome, but they don't know how to get there, and this is where they have landed themselves. So you need to find all the help that you can get to help this child. Work with the helper, professionals, and anyone that can help them.
Thank you
That's what I
so
can say.
much. Thank you. I will just add on the top of that, in this era of technology and modern living, if you can link your kid's device to yours, I would suggest you do that because it helps for you to see what they are up to. I would use myself as an example. Because my device is linked to my daughter's device, I noticed that she downloaded an app. She thought it was just a normal chat with friends app, but it wasn't. And it's this new thing about AI boyfriend, and I'm like, that's a slippery slope. That's a slippery slope because yes, you think it's some AI imagination, but you don't know who is at the back of that. And so that can help if you are tech savvy or you know how or you know somebody that can help you. Always be fully aware of what your kids are doing. And like she said, if you build relationship from day one, it might not be that difficult. But let me ask now, still on that communication thing. Not everybody was lucky enough to have that rapport with their child from the beginning, or maybe they had it and it broke. How do you go about mending and helping your child to see you as the first person to come to when it comes? Let me use myself. I like to shout when I'm angry, and maybe I've shouted and my child is afraid of me now and no longer wants to speak to me. How do I now bring her back to that place where I am now a safe space where she can come and tell me stuff and not be afraid that I will shout her down or I will judge her with the Bible or make her feel less than herself?
All right. Is that for me too?
Yes, too.
All right. So what will happen? This is a very common scenario that you just painted. But what happens is that parents don't know how to handle it, and sometimes they feel the damage has been done so badly that it cannot be repaired. This is where repair comes in. You have to repair. You have to acknowledge that what you once shared with your child is broken, and you need to fix it. So you have to calm down. You have to let go of any form of pride, ego, and be downright vulnerable with your child. So that is where you have to call your child, sit and have a conversation, honest, humble conversation. Let them know what you have done wrong. Apologize. Tell them, mommy made a mistake and I'm ready to make amends. I am deeply sorry that I hurt you. I hurt your feelings. I treated you in that manner. Whatever it is that caused that rift, apologize for it. And let your child know that going forward, I'm going to do differently. These are the things I'm going to put in place. I don't even mind you holding me accountable. I do that for my children. If I want to start teaching or modeling a particular value in the home, I tell them, in this season, I want us to learn calm. Everybody must speak with calm. You don't raise your voice, you don't shout, you don't yell, and it starts with me. So when I started that, I remember when I started that, a few days into that particular exercise, I was going upstairs and I yelled, I shouted, my voice just went up. And my daughter was like, Mommy, learn to be calm. I just called myself back. I told her I'm very sorry. I raised my voice. I I take the correction. So when we are dealing with our children, let's put the human face there. They want to see us vulnerable. They want to see us acknowledge that we made mistakes and we are going to correct our mistakes. It helps them to learn the same skill too. So that's what you do, Iso. So you make amends, tell her what you are going to start doing, and you can ask her to hold you accountable. When you flop, let her call your attention to it so that she knows how serious that you are. And if you flop, because most time we still go back to our default setting, when she calls your attention, acknowledge it and continue. When she see you consistently doing that, you are beginning to earn trust back. It's going to take some time, but you can achieve it. So, and then make sure that you are honest. You model every single thing that you have told her. Let your words and your actions align, because children don't like hypocrisy. They don't
Mm,
like inconsistency. If you
mm,
say this is what you want to do, they are going to be watching you to ensure that you do so. That is how you earn their trust. You don't earn their trust because you are their parents. You earn their trust because you have worked for it and they can see that you are consistent and that you are serious about it. They see your genuinity. They see the genuineness rather. They know when you are genuine and they know when you are just trying to get them on your side. So the ball is in your court. Once you do
fantastic,
that, you get your
fantastic.
child.
I will quickly jump into the comments on the comment section, then we'll come back to the questions. Um, on a lighter note, someone said, how can I get Messi to come and live with me for 6 months? So another person asked if you have a book because of the wonderful advice and counsel that you're giving, that if you have a book that you should let them know that they would like to read your book. And then one other person said they want you to expound more on how to help kids that have pornography and sexual addictions. Um, do you want to go to that? We're not good. Time is, oh my God. So, would you want to touch on that quickly? Because there's one more question here that we will take before we get to the other questions. Pornography and sexual
Pornography and
addiction.
sexual, yes, they work hand in hand somehow. And it's a very, I would say, is one of the difficult areas that I have encountered in my work. It's difficult because addictions are strongholds. And the one that is enslaved by them, it takes a lot of intentionality for them to break free. But there is still hope for the child. So you have to work with this child and do a lot of work of research, because you cannot deal with addiction from the place of ignorance. You are going to pray if you are a Christian, but beyond just praying, there are a lot of work that you need to do. And I would advise that you do a lot of research and then you work with the help of a professional. But while you are on that, you need to talk with your child. For pornography, you need to let them know how you feel about it, the dangers that is attached to it, and also work with them to look at their devices, look at their all the apps they have downloaded, because addiction, when they are addicted, they download a lot of apps. They have to start by acknowledging, work with them and let them get to that place where they really want to change. Because the problem with addiction is that until the child or whoever is addicted or the addict gets to the place of wanting to change, they don't change.
Mm, mm,
So you have to, that is where you need to surround this child with a lot of love. You have to surround the child with a lot of love. Otherwise, you will drive them away, because this is already controlling them. They are not the one in control of what they are doing. They're
mm,
already enslaved to that particular vice and behavior. So you need to surround them with love, with prayer, and then with professional help. But while you are doing that, help them to delete all the apps, block all the sites. If you have to take, even if you take away their phones and all the devices, it doesn't change it, because they will still find ways. And that
mm.
is why you need to work with a professional to really get to do this. That's the much I can say on that.
Thank you so much. So we'll go back into I know there's one more question here, but because of our time, we'll go back so that we keep the webinar organized the way we planned it. So this next segment is the parent's role, self-reflection. I know we touched on it here and there when we were addressing all the other topics, but this is the question. Am I projecting my own anxiety about the world onto my child? How can I check myself? Owame, I know that wasn't in the, but if you can respond to that, that would be great. Am I projecting my own anxiety about the world onto my child? How do I check myself?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Just checking you can hear me. I've had to
Yes,
change my network. This is better.
yes.
So I think to a large extent, parents are guilty of that, right? Parents have their own phobia and their own fear of different aspects of the world, and they think that their children may not be strong enough to fight these battles on their own. One of the things that I think parents do is to, play the mother hen role, right? And try to protect them from everything. I've come to see that these people they are built of their own steel, and I think that as they have been, brought into this environment that has all of its social media distractions here and there, there's also a bit of a grace that helps them survive it. And I think that as a parent, what you must do is to try and dissociate yourself from, you know, imposing your fears, too much on them. And just like what Mercy has said, uh, engaging them and talking with them. I told you about an example of a conversation I had with one of my youngest daughter, and I was thrilled at the amount of intelligence that she has, the kind of experience, the way she was able to even um, uh, reflect on what I was saying. So I was giving examples of my own life experiences, and she was just completing the sentences. So somehow they all also have their own strength to survive. I think parents need to be careful about that. I think they also need to check themselves. Um, in this regard, yes, you can care, yes, you can monitor, but the truth is, where you're not able to monitor, I have two children who don't even live at home, and they are at the university. I'm not there with them half of the time. I can't check their phones, I can't monitor their phones, I don't know what they're doing. But where you are able to build that strong mindset around what is right and what is wrong,
Mm,
I think they take it, and like Messi said, she said something about she reflected on how, I remember how she said it now, but the reality is that these children, they see right through you. If you're faking it, they see it. So even where you reprimand, right, and you do it in love, they feel it, they extract it, and that keeps them somewhat stable. So I'd say parents need to check it, and just try and let these guys grow up on their own. Watch from afar, but don't try to micromanage. Is what I would say.
mm,
And they
mm,
live in a
mm.
different world from us. So let's
Fantastic.
let's just allow them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Don't micromanage. That I'll take that away. Because the truth is, again, we tend to want to always, there's this constant worry. And I think I speak for most parents where you're like, I don't want my kid to fail. I don't want my kid to fail. So you're constantly watching your kid like a mother hen. And then someone also said in the comment section here that what you said, Messi, about the women, that does it apply to the men, or it should apply to the men? I'm trying to get to it quickly. Sorry. I'm trying to get, there are so many. Okay. You say, can men also follow the principle? Because many fathers like to wear the disciplinary cap. So to so
Yes,
so that's to
yes.
you.
So,
Are
so
you
that's
wearing the disciplinary
that's for me.
cap?
By default, that is to me. So I think, and I think I mentioned it earlier. When we spoke, the template of parenting that we receive from our parents, right, is a bit different from what you require to deal with these Gen Alphas, right?
Right.
Coincidentally, my mom is on this call, so I'm sure she will be interested in hearing what I have to say. But But I think that a father's role is different from a mother's role, right? I
Okay.
think a father needs to maintain that. You can still love as a father. You can still show love to your children, but the how would I put it now? The father's role as a disciplinarian, as to the strength behind the mother, it balances it out, right? So while a father might give you a disciplinarian outlook and say, no, put off your phones, put your phones down, drop them by 9, don't pick them up by this, the mother may not be able to enforce it that way, right? But the father probably also feels, right, I know this is hurting this child. I know this child really wants to hold this phone, but I have to be strong, right? Which is my point around, if you're looking for friendship from them now, right, you may not get friendship from them now because you are in divergent worlds. But I've
Mm-hmm.
seen my older children, I got a very, very emotional note from my son, uh, a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling me, "Daddy, I'll see where you're coming from, and I will not fail you." He sent me that message over just before coming back home, and I felt so moved, and I was like, "So that means I'm doing something right." You get my point? So the father must play that role, and I know that some fathers do it in extremity, right? But you must balance it. You must be strong as a father, but you must also show love. So it doesn't take it away from the fact that a father must have his position, but can still love his child, just as much as the mother does love the child. So it's a balance that you must find.
Fantastic, fantastic. Still on the comments, someone said we need another meeting to focus on nuances. We need at least okay, 5 more sessions. I don't know about 5 more sessions, but
I wanted to say
we,
something.
yes, go on, please.
All right, I wanted to speak to that last question that you asked, that parents are we transferring our anxiety on our children because we don't want them to get hurt. That is very true. We are transferring our anxiety on the children. And I just want to speak to that part of not wanting our children to get hurt. There is really no way we can raise children and they will not get hurt. You are not the one that is going to hurt them.
Mm.
They are going to be hurt by life, so to speak. So we need to let them know we are preparing them for life. We are not preparing them to a life is not comfortable all the time. So it is okay for them to be hurt and to learn from their hurt. Because sometimes when we shield them, we overprotect them from this hurt. So much so that when they now eventually are confronted with hurt, they don't know how to manage it.
Mm.
They cower in. That's why you see many people don't know how to stay in marriages. Because all they want is a soft life. And we parents are enabling a soft life. We are not teaching them resilience, and they cannot learn the skill of resilience by being just always comfortable. We want them to be comfortable. Our children cannot be all around comfortable. Life doesn't work like that. So I just want us as parents to understand there is a place for our children. They will be hurt. They will make mistakes, and it is fine. It's a normal process of their journey. They have their own life journey. Allow their process to go through. Let them go through that process. And let us not interfere in trying to protect them. We are not helping them by shielding them from every hurt. They need this hurt to grow, to develop mental muscles. That we are raising young people who are mentally lazy because they want everything to be comfortable. Life is not like that. I just wanted to chip that in.
Okay, I appreciate you for saying that. I'm so sorry I seem to be in a kind of a rush here, but we said this was going to be 45 minutes, and I like to be respectful of people's time. We've overshot that by almost 20 minutes now because of how valued the conversation is. So I don't mind, and I would find out from our faculty if they don't mind having a next or a part 2. I don't know if we'll get to part 5, but we'll probably get another one where, because we seem to be doing broad strokes over a lot of the topics, and then we can now melt it down and then pick it apart and really find solution. But that said, if there's anybody that has one more comment, one more question, you can unmute and ask the question. I would stop talking now. If I wait like 30 seconds, nobody says anything, and then we'll have final words from our faculty.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. My name is Dominic, and I guess I've been the troublemaker in this group, demanding extra time. But my question is really quick. And I'm a single dad-ish. When trust is broken, um, how what are the maybe step 1, step 2, and step 3 that one can do immediately to reestablish trust? Um, and then in divorce circumstances, at what point or what should we be looking for or looking at in our children or in our child to determine whether, okay, perhaps it's time to get therapy? Because
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right. I can speak to that. Is all right.
Yes, please.
1, 2, 3 steps to rebuilding trust is that you need to have an open and honest conversation where you apologize, talk about what happened. Don't sweep it under the carpet. Give your child the opportunity to express how they feel about what happened. Be ready to listen to them and give them the opportunity to fully express themselves while you do the same thing. Apologize, acknowledge and own whatever you did wrong, and chart a new course and require that your child should hold you accountable and begin to work intentionally on rebuilding trust, and be very sincere, honest about it. And I believe with time you are going to still gain back that trust. Then on the second question of how do you know that your child needs therapy? When you have done everything you know to do as a parent, because as parents, we can only do the best that we know to do. When you have gotten to your limits, then you know you don't have anything to do, you don't know what else to do. It's either you seek for counsel for yourself so that you can gain the knowledge and transfer to your child, or you can get your child directly to meet with and speak with a professional. That's when they can, have therapy. And both of you can also go for therapy depending on what you are dealing with at that time. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone that tuned into this webinar. We would communicate with you if there's going to be a part 2. But aside that, we'll just take final words from our faculties, and then we'll call it a wrap. I would start with Owame. Owame, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been quite a session. I know that I've learned, a lot myself, as a parent, listening to Mercy. So thank you, Mercy, for your time. I think that parenting is something that, I don't think it ever stops, right? You keep being a parent to your child. They may move from phase to phase, from preteens to teens to adults, and they become grandparents, and they're still parenting you. But I think consistency is the major thing. You just need to be consistently there, and that also.
Oh, this network is not helping us.
Speaks to the question from Dom as well. Dealing with acknowledge the hurt, but be wow. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you for a while, but I think it's fair
Is it
now.
better now?
Go on, please.
Fair now. Right. Yeah. So I was harping on the word consistency, and I think that's where I would like to just throw it out to every parent. You need to be consistently there for your child, love them, show them love, be there, listen to them, talk to them, and then just walk through this journey with them. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. So you just need to gear up for it. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Mercy.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Thank you, Izo, for having me and your wonderful team. Thank you, Owame. I'm meeting you for the first time, and thank you so much for your insightful contribution to the conversation. So my last word would be this. Parenting teenagers in this time and age is very challenging. We cannot, it's not up for debate. It is extremely challenging. But one of the things I want parents to know is that you need to consistently equip yourself with knowledge. Parenting cannot be done on instinct or assumption. You need knowledge, you need wisdom, and you need to consistently grow to meet your children at the different level of development that they are experiencing. The parent that you were when your child was a teenager is not the version of parent you need to be when they are when they were preteens or toddlers rather. It's not the version of parents you need to be when they are teenagers. And the version of parents you need to be when they are young adults is not the one you need to be when they are teenagers. So you have to consistently learn. There is no such thing as ignorance in this time and age. Your child will, you don't want your child to know more than you.
Mm.
Yeah. And I can tell you, some teenagers know more than their parents, and that is where the problem starts because they can't come to you. As I speak to you now, to the glory of God, we don't have any teenager again in my house. Our oldest is 25 years old. The last one is 22. But I can tell you that where they are all in different parts of this country, they still come to us for advice and counsel. They send their friends to us because we have built that relationship, and they know that what mommy and daddy will tell them is different from what their friends will tell them.
Mm.
And what other people will tell them. They have other adults in their space that speak to them too, but they will always still come back to get answers because beyond the knowledge, they need wisdom
Mm.
at different stages. Now they are young adults, they need wisdom. So you cannot afford to be ignorant. You can't. It's a travesty for you to be ignorant. Because when you are ignorant, you are going to be a disadvantage to your child and not an advantage. And what we should consistently be to our children is to be an advantage to them so that we can help to build them, to guide them, to become independent, responsible adults. That is what I can say. Thank you so much once again for
Wow,
having me.
wow. What a session. This has been so insightful. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. And thank you to our amazing faculties, Mercy Ajadi and Oame David. Thank you so much for all your insightful responses. We appreciate this. This session was recorded, so it will be posted on our Opentabletv YouTube channel for people to go back and watch and learn even more. If you want us to like break it down, please leave a comment. Which section of all of the questioning would you want us to dive deep into? Now, that said, I would say one big thank you to everyone again. We'll call it a wrap for today. Thanks for tuning in. I always like to end with life is for the living. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.